Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Aspiring Adult Podcast. And this week we're having back on Milo, who is formerly my full-time live-in maid, full-time chef, and what else?
Full-time roommate.
Full-time roommate.
Uh-huh.
And Milo, why is it that you're no longer full-time? You've moved over to part-time?
I got a job that is, in fact, full-time.
Hence the high-vis.
Yep. Yeah.
So, do you like this new company?
Yeah, it's great. I feel like family. I did 1 week with them, and they took me out to the family ranch where they were handling their food for the year, which was the family cow. Yeah, they don't sell. It's not like they distribute meat or anything like that.
Just for personal use?
Yeah, just for personal use.
So, I was in Napa this past weekend with some of my girlfriends from college, and Milo texted me asking me what I was doing, and I was at a spa, and my treatment that I was getting was a chakra alignment, and Milo texted me a picture and said, "I'm aligning this cow's chakras," and it was, what would you call that?
I was 3/4 of a cow in the back of a 1976 C20 flatbed pickup truck. Yep. We had 2 of them parked outside. One of them was for guts and bones, and the other one was for quarters that we were going to process. And the one with guts and bones, we actually... But yeah, they do a little bit of everything, but they specifically specialize in industrial concrete and epoxy work and stuff like that. But
what are you going to spend your first paycheck on?
Rent money? I don't know. Groceries?
Glamorous.
Probably some door handles for my truck.
Oh, for the inside.
For the inside.
That way we don't have to roll the windows down to open the door.
Yep. Probably a clutch pedal. Yeah, the door handle's like $5. I looked on Amazon. Could have been fixed a long time ago. Yeah, and the clutch pedal's like $50.
Let me know when you make that Amazon order because I want to get reusable paper towels.
Okay. Just super subtle way of virtue signaling that we don't use Amazon a lot and that we're super sustainable. Super subtle virtue signal right there.
What did you call it? A virtue signal?
You've never heard that before?
No.
Oh, that's when people wear like a t-shirt that says like ally on it. You're like virtue signaling to everybody that you're like, I'm one of you guys. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we don't use Amazon often. It is a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
I ordered for the first time from Amazon in over a year to get my bidet. Because apparently no stores in Denver, Colorado supply bidets. I feel like your whole life is a virtue signal.
Kind of everyone's is.
Okay, so going back to my weekend spent in Napa, I went with 3 of my friends from college, and I hadn't seen them in over a year since I left for the ranch. Kind of wild, because I feel like my life had changed so much since I last seen them. It's weird. It feels like in your 20s, people are all over the place in terms of what they're doing with their lives. Like, I literally just got off the phone with my friend McLean, who's planning to buy a house and potentially get engaged within the next year. And then all of the girlfriends that I was with in Napa were all talking about getting engaged, what they want their rings to look like, what they want their engagement to look like all of that sort of stuff. And for me, I'm not there yet. And so it's a bizarre feeling because I don't feel like I'm behind, but I just feel like I am...
Different.
Yeah, different, but losing a connection to people that I've had such a strong connection with. Like, there's less and less things that I'm finding in common, if that makes sense. What their priorities are not my current priorities. Not saying that mine are any better or that theirs are any better. They're just different.
Yeah, when you say everyone's in like a different place in their life in their 20s, it's like everyone's almost in a different place or the same place. And what I mean by that is like they're either like all getting engaged and stuff like that, or they're in a different place and it's just like utter chaos, or it's just not really like the norm, the path you maybe would have thought for that person. Like you went to the ranch, I went to the ranch. Yeah, so it's like you're either all over the place or you're batting down the hatches in one place.
That's true.
Weathering the storm.
Yeah.
Or you're out in the storm.
Which to me, it seems like my lifestyle is normal to you. Granted that you didn't go to college and you weren't fed the same
rhetoric.
You weren't fed the same, like,
Crazy.
almost propaganda.
I didn't go to college, but I'm so crazy good with words. My vernacular is just breathtakingly expansive.
Do you want to like mumble through every one of those words one more time? Like, not sure, like soft-footed.
No, I was sure. I was so excited to get it out.
Sure.
Yep.
But for me, it's just, I haven't met that many people that are similar to me that went to college, off the college, like went to not only college, but got a corporate job, was working corporate, doing well in corporate, and left. There's not many people that are like that. Whereas with you and your friends, none of you went to college. And so that's kind of hustle mindset right off the bat. You're kind of sink or swim right out of high school. Yeah. You either find something that you're good at and you want to do, or you die trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know so many people that have worked seasonally or just made it work without having to go to college. Like, I went to my boss's family ranch this weekend. She went to Napa, and you were talking about how you feel like kind of growing apart from like your friends there a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. What made you feel like that? Like, what was aside from like the talking about like where they're at in their life, so like a specific thing?
I would say that aside from describing my life in chaos, like how you did, of chaos all over the place, I guess I would call it organized chaos. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm intentional about the things that I do. What?
Organized chaos?
Yeah.
What do I always say about idiot savants and how they organize their workspace? Just stuff all over the place. Like Albert Einstein's workshop was just like crazy. When I'm cooking, it looks crazy up there. I'm a fantastic cook. And she's always like, you need to clean while you cook. I'm like, no, there is
method to the madness.
There's a method to the madness, absolutely. And she would always be like, no, there's not. And then she just called her life organized chaos.
It is organized chaos. I intentionally do things, although it may not seem it. I intentionally do things and try and figure out if they're for me or not.
No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just pointing out that it exists. So next time you try and tell me that it doesn't.
I never have said that organized chaos doesn't exist. Anyways, the reason why it feels like, I won't say that we're growing apart, because I don't want to grow apart, and I feel like that's a very intentional thing to avoid, is growing apart, but our priorities are just different. They are very focused on life milestones, and I'm more focused on life experiences. And I don't mean that in a harsh, crass way. How I mean that is that they want to move up in their corporate job, or they want to settle down and get engaged and get married. They want to buy a house. They want to move and advance in the ways that we see in society that's normal. Whereas maybe I'm just an anomaly, which I know I'm not, but I just want to frolic. I just want to explore. I want to be a nomad.
So you went wine tasting.
I did.
I want to get back to that, but just a quick little excerpt. Did you taste wine? Were you boozing?
I was not boozing.
You weren't boozing it up?
No, I had I wanted to call it a restaurant. It's not a restaurant. It's a winery. So it was kind of a bummer in Napa because it was super rainy. You couldn't see a thing. Like, there's normally mountains and pretty, like, winery scenery, but you couldn't see any of it because it was overcast and rainy the whole time. Central California, hellscape, I guess. So, we go to the first winery, and the wine connoisseur, winologist, I don't know, whatever his role is, was giving everyone else their wine, and I got 2 little orange sodas. They were very good, actually. So I had orange soda at one place, and then a lot of water.
Just an Izzy in a fancy glass bottle.
Yep. No, it
You know
wasn't.
what an Izzy is, right?
Yeah, I know what Izzy is. But it wasn't in a glass bottle. It was in an aluminum can. Kind of like a Coors Light.
It very much so. Just could have been an Izzy, just rewrapped.
Could have been.
Could have been.
And then I had a mocktail espresso martini, which was just espresso with milk in it.
The milk really throws me off with that one.
It's just so that it fills the glass more.
Just put more espresso in there.
No, I'm
Give me
good.
2 shots.
It was nighttime. Sleepy time. No thanks.
Tonic water. Tonic water would be killer.
Oh, that'd be disgusting.
Sparkling water.
Gross.
Love me an espresso tonic.
But anyways, then the last night I had sparkling grape juice, which was really good actually. And I bought 2 bottles of sparkling grape juice.
It's
for
sparkling?
us.
I didn't even know that.
One of them is sparkling. I think the other one
Just
is
lied.
still. But no, I didn't drink, which also was another thing that kind of separated me, or felt like it was another barrier between me and them, is that I just don't drink. I have no interest in drinking. One of the girls offered to me to just spit the wine out into a bucket, which, like, that's normal when you go wine tasting. It's a spittoon that you just cleanse your palate.
So you don't get drunk.
So you don't get drunk and you can actually taste the wine, but I don't like the taste of wine anyways. So I'd be paying $45 to basically spit in a can.
Waiter, garden hose me real quick. Just
Yeah, you can do that.
garden hose off.
So I feel like that was also another thing that was a little bit difficult for me. I know that that's also something that you probably struggle with, being that you've been sober for 22 years.
Yeah. Luckily, none of my friends were really ever big drinkers, and even if they were drinking, no one would get particularly schmammered.
Mm-hmm.
One of them would, but I mean, that's one person. Sometimes they'd smoke weed because I'm from California, and that's a thing that people in high school do, definitely more than drinking. So yeah, I mean, and like, so you don't change as much when you're high as you do when you're drunk. So it's pretty easy to manage. I can't. Yeah, it's never really something I've had to struggle with. Obviously, people get drunk and it's just, you have funny moments.
Sometimes. Majority of the time, like, they're just embarrassing. You've never been drunk, so you don't understand waking up the next morning and having the most severe anxiety and not remembering what you did.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do, but all my experiences with drunk people have all been, this is not advertising, but they've all been, none of them have been really bad. My one buddy earlier that I said, my one friend who gets consistently hammered, I remember we cheesed his truck at my buddy's house party.
Okay,
and
can you describe what cheesing
Yeah,
a
you
truck
take an
is?
American cheese slice and you
Like
just,
a Kraft Singles?
yeah, and you just throw it on the windshield. And then you do it like I've like driven by cheese people where like you're driving in your friend's passenger seat and you throw it out the window. And, like,
I've seen you throw things. There's no way you're hitting people.
No, like they're on the sidewalk on a 1-lane road, and it's like, or like sitting on a bench or something, and you just cheese right out.
Okay, but I'm telling you, I've seen you throw. Your aim is horrible.
No, when you get a pack and you throw 30 of them, and they like 30 ninja stars flying through the air. Covers wide ground.
A cheese spray.
Yeah. But he cheesed the front of his windshield, was so drunk he didn't even realize. And he puts it in reverse, slams out of my buddy's driveway, doing like 30 miles an hour in a residential, just like skid marks down the road.
Why did you let him drive if he was that drunk?
Because he's like, oh, I'm going to go park it.
Why are you letting him drive if he's that drunk?
I'll get to this. So we're like, okay, whatever. There's 2 other cars on the street. There's no way he even gets close to him. Slams it in reverse, flies out, backwards parallel parks without having to change between reverse and drive at all between the only 2 cars on the street. Hammered as fuck. And me and my buddy who cheesed the truck are just standing like... Nah.
So why did you let him drive drunk?
Because we knew he wasn't going anywhere. He was just going to park it.
Why didn't one of you do it if you were both sober?
I didn't have my driver's license yet.
So it's better to drive drunk than better to drive without your driver's license?
Everybody there was drunk.
So again, I'm gonna say it's better to drive drunk than it is to drive underage.
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know though. I don't know. I wonder what the insurance rates look like after you get a DUI compared to when you are a 17-year-old boy. They're probably pretty similar.
It's probably good.
It's probably really similar. So I don't know.
But I'm just thinking, like, morally.
I don't know. There was 11 o'clock out, no one on the street. There's 2 cars out there. He's not driving anywhere. He's parking it.
All right.
Actually, when she went out to Napa, I went to the ranch, and I was the only person on the entire property, and there was like a good amount of people that were there, and everybody was drinking, some a lot more than others, but everybody was noticeably drunk except one person, but I know he was drinking, and I don't know, that was a good time. We had dinner, just hung out and did redneck shit. And
see, I just have such a tough time hanging out or being around people that are drunk. So obviously I know I'm not always the best at deciding or being able to tell if someone is drunk. But once I do realize, or like I am able to tell, like, because the majority of the time, like, you're just being annoying. You're being annoying, you're being a slob, you're being sloppy. And it's just frustrating because, like, just be a normal human. Even though I've been there before, like, I've been sloppy and I've been messy, unfortunately, but it's not an appealing behavior to me, and so it's really difficult for me to like want to be in that environment. Like, I don't really go to places where people are excessively drinking because of that.
Yeah, and that makes sense, but some people, they drink and then they get a little bit fuzzy, and they open up a little bit more. And, like, this weekend, like, we were working, and all these people were drunk. Mm-hmm. And, so that was just really interesting. I've never seen, except probably Mexicans on a job site. I don't know, I've probably seen drunk Mexicans working and just didn't even realize they were drunk. But, yeah. We got shit done, and everybody was, putting them down. Yeah, I don't know, I just never...
How did you feel when everyone else was drunk?
So that was different, because, like, when I was in Boone, like, I knew everybody. When I've been to, like, the quinceañeras, at my Mexican buddy's house, all these other places I've been, I've known everybody. On the ranch, I knew, like, 2 people that were there. Three people that were there. And that's it. And even then, I didn't know him that good. I'd known him for 5 days. There were people I'd been working with for the past 5 days. And they were super gracious and hospitable. So I felt like an orphan in a new family almost, I guess. And that family just so happened to be drunk. And it helped them loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, but how did you feel?
I don't know. I think it was just different because I didn't really know anybody. I felt like not knowing them was more of a barrier than them being drunk. But maybe that's just what happens when you combine 2 things. Yeah, I don't know. My strongest feeling was like, I am with all these people that know each other, that are family, that have known each other for years. And I don't know anybody.
But you had no inkling to drink with them to try and fit in. Did you?
No, no. Yeah, no. I think it was funny. One of them asked me if I want to drink. I'm like, no, no, thank you, I don't drink. And then like 5 minutes later, they were like, man, you're fitting right in. And I was like, huh. I'm stone cold sober, but I'm fitting right in.
What do you mean you were fitting right in?
He just said I was fitting right in.
In what context?
We were all sitting in the meat house, and
What the hell's meat house?
it's where you butcher your food.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the meat house. And we were all just sitting around on buckets talking shit. I'm sure I've had bad experiences around people or with people that were drunk. But I guess, I don't know, the good ones are just shining brighter right now, so I really can't pull up like a horrible
Yeah, you're kind of glamorizing
I
being
am.
drunk, which is a little concerning.
And I don't even drink. But yeah, also, I'm sure I would have a lot more bad experiences if I was around more drunk people. But I'm hardly ever around drunk people.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just what I choose to do with my time. Like, the only real time I could be putting myself in one of those positions is when I'm playing pool. Or I'm hanging out with people. But even then, I guess most of my friends don't drink, or most of the time my friends aren't drinking, so I'm usually not in that position. And when I'm playing pool, I'm usually playing pool with other people. I don't interact with other people in the bar or anything like that.
I feel like you kind of missed out on the realm where drinking was really normalized. Because I went to college, drinking culture at my school was insane. That was just what was expected of you. You were expected to go to the bars every weekend, if not multiple times during the week, in addition to the weekend.
Overtime.
You were in a fraternity, a sorority, whether it was a business or whether it was, I don't know, what do you call like non-business fraternities, like a regular fraternity or sorority. And you just spent so much time normalizing it, seeing it promoted on like Barstool, on what were the other like channels for that? And it was just glamorized so much and made so normal that that's what you thought you were supposed to do. I remember I was sitting in my dorm room freshman year because none of my friends were going out. They were all studying. We had an exam that coming Monday. And I was embarrassed to be staying in and not go out because I felt like that made me a loser. And looking back on that, the reason why I remember that feeling in that moment so vividly is because I was being a loser. I was being a loser because I was allowing other people's feelings or sentiment towards me
That probably didn't even exist.
that
They probably didn't even realize that you weren't at the bar.
Exactly. Which is so insane. And I was just so in my head about it. And that's kind of when I started thinking about, why am I even like drinking? Like, why do I even care? But then that was washed away after 4-ish years of drinking. And I say ish because that whole COVID stint took me out of college. I didn't touch alcohol at all when I was quarantined at home in South Carolina with my dad. Like, at all. I did not care to drink. It was not something that I wanted to buy a bottle of wine. It wasn't something that I wanted to get a margarita. It wasn't any of that. I felt great, and I went back to school and continued being a booze hound. And then when I graduated, because it was so normalized in college, it became the thing to do when you moved to a city. It was how you went on dates with people. It was how you met people. It was how you networked. Let's go grab a drink. Let's go get a drink. Let's go to happy hour. And it just became such a routine part of corporate America, being in your 20s, trying to move to a new city, dating. It was so incorporated in everything that it felt virtually impossible to escape from. And it wasn't even necessarily like when you're networking with someone or you're going out for a drink with your boss, like you're not looking to get drunk there by any means. You are just having a simple drink. But for me, I felt like if I were to stop drinking, I would hinder any ability for me to advance with some of my clients, with my bosses, anything in that realm. So I felt like it was going to hinder me professionally. I felt like it was going to hinder me in my dating realm of who was going to invite me on a date when it says in my Hinge bio, sober. Like, who would do that? They're going to think I'm a loser.
For real.
For real. And so that's the part that I feel like you missed out on, is having all of that pressure to conform to what society wants you to do and then electing to not. Obviously, you have your own story of why you're sober and why you elect not to drink or partake in any substances.
Not one. No nicotine. No weed. No coke. No meth. None of it. You like how I jumped to those? Never smoked weed, but I've done meth. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, I feel like drinking's kind of that nighttime coffee if you think about it.
Oh.
Like, because what I mean by that, but it's like the nighttime coffee for people who really aren't getting anything done and just are like almost extending work, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like going like to get a drink with like your coworkers or whatever. Like that's all stuff you do over coffee. Going on dates, going out with coworkers, talking with your boss about like a specific project.
How do the Mormons do it?
Oh, prayer. Prayer.
Anyways.
White monster. You don't put your hand down, you fucking poser. You didn't even smell the white monster. You didn't even smell the crisp break of a cold, frosty white monster on a summer day.
Stop licking your
Ford
chops.
F-250. No, but it's like the nighttime coffee, but for losers. Because at least on coffee, like it's during the day, you're probably getting something done. If you are on a date, you're probably actually getting to know that person. But drinking, it's just all the stuff you do while drinking coffee.
That's true.
But you're hindered. So it's that nighttime cup of coffee.
Did you make that up?
Swear to God, I just made
That's
it.
good.
Yeah, I have my moments.
It sounded really off-putting at first.
Until you explain it, right?
Yeah.
See, it didn't sound off-putting in my head. And then I thought about it. I was like, that could be off-putting if she doesn't let me explain it. But I railroaded my way into explaining it. What was I going to say? No, so I actually... The only time I felt weird about saying I was sober was going on dates and stuff like that. Or like my Hinge profile, like sober. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this guy?
Yeah.
I don't know, go hiking, be fucking normal.
It's so weird because
Just get
it's like
food without a drink.
I don't want to. I don't know. Like now that you and I are dating and we're just so in sync on what our hobbies are and what we like to do and how nothing we do revolves around going and getting a drink or going to happy hour. Like literally nothing. It's so refreshing. But that is just like neither one of us wanted that. So why were we concerned about trying to find somebody that was gonna like?
Yeah, I never even thought of that. That's a good point.
It's so funny.
It's even weirder for me.
Why?
Because, like, I literally never drank.
Yeah.
Like, at least for you, it would be like, okay, like, maybe I would miss it. Like, maybe I would still want to go out and do that. But for me, I never did it. So it's even stranger for me. Yeah.
No, I feel... you're definitely right. It is less common for you to never drink. But I feel like it's pretty normal to get burnt out on drinking and drinking culture and that whole thing.
100%.
But I feel like it takes a special willpower to show up to a function, intentionally not drink.
You guys have chocolate milk?
You have a root beer for me, perhaps?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like a root beer.
You have a grape juice for me to
You
try?
got a root beer? My 1996 4Runner has exploded outside.
Yep. So, I feel like that is... It's definitely harder to be sober than it is to drink. 100%. And so, it's the path of least resistance that people are taking by continuing to drink.
It's harder being sober?
It's harder being sober, 100%. You show up to a function, you show up to a restaurant. How often do they have non-alcoholic options?
I think it might be easier to be sober if you've been sober forever, but it's probably harder to be sober if you've drank before.
If you look at it through the eyes of addiction, yes. Yeah. But I'm looking at it through the eyes of just electing to not. Like,
I think we're both right. We're saying the same
I
thing.
agree.
Yeah.
But I think that with addiction...
Whatever eye you look at it through, it's...
But I think with addiction, it's also giving you a reason to not do it. Because there's something that you did, or there's a way that you felt, or there's something that you want to overcome. Whereas with me, I didn't have like an addiction. Mine was just...
You just had all the symptoms of an addiction. You would not like the way you felt about something you said or did.
It's true.
You would not like the way you felt when you did it.
It's true.
What were so you just said the first thing, and then the second thing was the way you felt about something you did. What was the first thing? Something you did? You would regret something you did? Was that the first thing you just said when you were talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, but you still have, because like you said, you'd wake up after being blackout drunk. Whether you're an alcoholic or not, you're probably worried about what you did when you're blackout drunk.
It's true. It does not taste good. If you have to get an acquired taste, like an acquired taste is you just overcoming the obstacle of it being blatantly bad. Like, beer is an acquired taste. No, it's just bad. Yeah.
No.
What's an acquired taste that's
Coffee.
actually good?
Spicy stuff. Certain seasonings. Certain ways of consuming tobacco. Probably certain ways of alcohol. Milk.
Okay.
There's also different milks that are really good.
I stand corrected. Jeez.
So an acquired taste is not you overcoming something that is just objectively bad. It just might be you acquiring the taste. What?
I think that's so cheeky.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's alcohol out there that's good. Maybe not specifically beer, but...
Beer is terrible.
Okay. I feel like a wine could be good. Or not a wine. I feel like whiskey could be good. You know what? Someone on the ranch this weekend smoking a fucking pipe. How cool is that? Smoking a pipe. Smelled good. Smelled sweet. Smelled almost like a cigar.
I remember the first time...
I've puffed off a cigar. A vanilla one. It wasn't that bad. It was like, okay.
I remember the first time I had tobacco, and it was chewing tobacco. I was in high school. It was at a New Year's Eve party, and we were playing like some card game where you like got dared to do stuff. I can't remember what it was. It was like if you said it was black and it was actually red, then you had to do something, whatever. Not important. But one of the things I had to do was chew tobacco. And I took a little, I don't even know what you want to call it, like
pinch.
Pinched it, put it in my lip. It literally tasted like I had chewing gum that I had been chewing, dropped it in some mulch, picked it up with the mulch pieces in it, and then put it back in my mouth.
See, that sounds like it would taste good.
It was disgusting. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever chewed on.
Can't be that many things. Not that high of a bar. It's like saying you took first in the city's triathlon event. There's 2.5 people doing it. The half is someone in a wheelchair. They pedal with their arms. They swim. You can swim with just your arms, and you roll in the run part. That's such an Ohio thing, but it's not a where you're from in Ohio thing. It's like
What is an Ohio thing?
Ohio things are weird things and redneck things, but where you're from is like hyper normal and not redneck.
Yeah.
But nobody knows that about Ohio. That there's normal places like that. Everybody just what? Yeah, are you chewing tobacco again?
That's like the vast majority of Ohio is just normal, plain, boring, beige house. Not even housewife. It's a dual income home. Just normal, like beige, stereotypical suburbia.
You say half of Ohio?
No, more than half.
I don't think so. If you looked at a map, what percentage of Ohio is densely populated areas, densely constructed areas with lots of shelter?
Did you ever watch Jessie on Disney Channel?
Real quick, I do think that people think
Debbie
after
Ryan
having
lives in Ohio.
after having, I'm trying to agree with you right now, so you should really let me talk. After having gone to Ohio, I think it's a lot different than people think. I think Ohio is like Missouri, where it's like weird and redneck and hillbilly, and it's not that.
That's every state.
No.
Every single state is that way.
No.
Yes. What do you mean? Yes.
Colorado's not.
Yes, it is.
People don't think of it like that. People think of Colorado as granola.
Okay.
When you actually live here, it kind of is, because then you can kind of venture outside of Denver and Boulder, and then you kind of...
Okay, you go to Pueblo?
Who the fuck is going to Pueblo? Anyone listening to this podcast is not going to know what Pueblo is, except people from the ranch. No one's going to know what Pueblo is.
Pueblo, and then you go to Denver, and then you go to Boulder. Those are three different types of people. You go to Clark.
Denver and Boulder they're the same kind of person, except one of them goes outside and one of them works in IT and goes outside on the weekends.
Okay, so you still have 3.
2.5 at best.
Clark?
Oh. Yeah, you have the desert dwellers, you have the mountain men, and then you have the city people. The they-thems in the city. But I think people don't think of Colorado as that. People think of Colorado as Boulder and Denver. California's not like that.
What?
But
yes, it is.
The perception of these states isn't really redneck.
Okay, but hear me out. Burbank to Morgan Hill to San Diego, to Los Angeles, all very different. You have the cowpokes in Morgan Hill / San Jose area. You have the city dwellers in LA.
Fake cowpokes in Morgan Hill, by the way.
And then you have Burbank, where you have like random chaos going on.
Every state is very different, but people specifically think of Ohio as different than what it is. It's not how people think of it.
So you're saying what it's known for?
Yeah, what it's known for is like being weird and hillbilly.
You could. That's also okay. You could say that about anywhere, just because you don't know that. You haven't been there. It just makes you sound uneducated.
I mean,
like that's like if so.
But it's also just like the meme, the Ohio meme. It's just a funny thing.
Oh, that was a joke. You're trying to explain it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Oh. Ha ha ha.
Super delayed laugh, by the way. We've been talking about this for probably 10 minutes. No, but I think, obviously every state has its fair share of hillbillies and stuff like that, but when people think of states, they don't think of states. There are a lot of states that they don't think of as hillbilly. And Ohio is a mistakenly hillbilly state. That's all I was saying.
If there was one state in the U.S. that I had to deem as hillbilly, I'd say West Virginia.
Yeah. Hillbilly is a weird word though, because it insinuates a geographical and topographical change with hills and altitude. But people use it for like people that live in like Alabama, and there's not a fucking foot of
Hill.
Yeah, so I guess redneck is a better term. But even so, yeah, redneck, West Virginia.
Yeah.
What do you think is the least redneck state?
Connecticut or Vermont?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like those are pretty redneck. I feel like those are pretty working class, rough-handed people.
What would you say?
Rhode Island's too easy because it's the size of a fucking golf course. So it's like impossible for there to be rednecks, because to be redneck you gotta have more land than Rhode Island. So Rhode Island would be a good one, but I feel like that's too easy. New York has some rednecks.
So somewhere in New England. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, or California. If you were to think of it as most people think of it, probably California. If you were to think of it how I think of it, having lived there, definitely not California. I'd probably say yeah, somewhere in New England. I think there's a reason for that. I think it was the first place people really settled in North America, so it's been growing and having buildings and cities longer than anywhere else. Like New York is a city built on a city built on a city, whereas like
yeah, but how does that relate to being a redneck?
Because you need like a little bit. You don't need like a lot of land to be a redneck, but you.
But you just said that you need a lot of land because Rhode Island.
Being a joke. A joke. There's different types. Like there's white trash rednecks, and then there's like farm rednecks.
Okay. I didn't realize
the lines can blend.
categories.
The lines can blend for sure. What was the question?
You are talking about cityscape and the infrastructure of those larger cities that or those older cities that exist in New England, and emphasizing why that was making them more susceptible to being targets of the largest or the least likely redneck.
Yeah, so when you have so many buildings on a street, there is two things you can do. You can expand horizontally, and you can build another neighborhood next to it, or you can build upwards. For a long time, we were pretty limited on how high we could build until like the early 1900s and like the Industrial Revolution. So you basically had 100 years of having to expand horizontally. So the East Coast, New England, got settled and then blew up with expansion. And basically for 100 years, they couldn't build very high upwards like they can now. So it got cityfied really quick, whereas you look at the middle of America and the West Coast, it's not so much densely populated as the East Coast. It's the same reason why middle of America and the West Coast has more camping, has more BLM land, not Black Lives Matter, Bureau of Land Management land. People who aren't outdoorsy don't know what BLM is.
I know I asked Savita while we were in Napa if there's BLM in Sonoma County, because there's just so much.
What?
So she's like, and everyone in the car was like, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So for the same reason that the West Coast, middle of America, has way more BLM, way more camping, way more land in general than the East Coast, is because it didn't get settled as early, so it has 50 less years of settling, and then with that came being able to preserve wildlife more and preserve a outdoorsy and living off the land, a little bit more separated lifestyle.
States in New England are so much smaller than the states out west. You think they just got lazy?
No. The reason for that is because, oh my god, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. It's
natural borders.
No, it's because they were limited as to what they had.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, okay, we need to separate this here, separate this there. Whereas when you start getting out west, you get it's so vast. Like basically when we did the, oh my God, what's that trade called that we did with France where we got like
the Louisiana Purchase?
Yes, thank you. That's like one of the few times you've outdone me in history. The Louisiana Purchase, like we pretty much tripled the size of the United States. Then we got Alaska, and we tripled it again.
Was Alaska the third purchase?
It was pretty close. It was up there. I think, but we doubled the size of the United States when we got Alaska. And so you have all this unsettled land with no one on it except Native Americans and roughnecks who are willing to fight the Native Americans. So you don't need to draw borders. You walk as far as you can that way on the East Coast and you'll end up in a different state in a couple days. You walk as far as you can west.
You're still walking.
Yeah, you're walking.
Dang.
Yeah, like could you imagine having to walk across Kansas as opposed to having to walk across like
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I guess the time difference wouldn't be that long, but yeah, it's because we are so much more confined. I think when you're confined, you tend so if you have a huge house, you just go, that room is for whatever. If you have this house, everything has to be neat and tidy and organized and put away in its right place.
It's true.
Yeah. And then also, like, when you get into... The lifestyles varied so much, colony to colony, in the 13 colonies. Like, when we first won... Like, so I think that's another reason why they had to divide it. They're very different. Although now I think they're even... State to state, it's more different. Like, if you were to compare, like, Texas to New York or something like that. Whereas, I guess, if you compared, like, Georgia to Vermont in 1790, I guess it's not... There's just the weather.
All that to say, how did we even get on the topic of rednecks and hillbillies?
How did we do that? How did we manage to do that?
We talked about Ohio.
Oh, you're chewing tobacco, and I said that's such an Ohio thing, but it's not really an Ohio thing because Ohio is just normal and bland, and people think it's weird and hillbilly.
It's true. It is normal and it is bland.
Yeah, somewhere that's weird and hillbilly, that you wouldn't think is weird and hillbilly, is New Mexico. Hillbilly, and then you have, look how short my thumb looks. Hillbilly, and then like you have like all the UFO sightings and stuff like that. So definitely weird. People doing mushrooms, smoking a lot of weed, peyote.
I think that you need to adopt the mindset that every single state has hillbilly in it, or redneck, or whatever you want to call it, whatever non-politically correct term that you want to call it, as well as city dwellers, as well as suburbanites, as well as you name it, you know. I don't think
anything you could say against rural and low-income white people is non-PC because they're not going to get upset about it. They are some of the thickest skinned individuals you will ever meet. Whereas like you can't say that about like, you know, XYZ, name anything else. But if you call a hillbilly, they're like, hell yeah. And so I don't think.
One?
Allegedly, some people say I am, some people say I'm not. Whatever. So I don't think it's. I mean, you call him a honky. It's not PC.
What is? I don't.
You've never heard honky before?
No, there was this group of girls that I went to high school with that they called themselves the honkies.
Oh, there was a bunch of white girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Honky. Derogatory. Informal. A contemptuous term used by some black people for a white person or for white people collectively. Hank Williams Jr. has a song called Rich White Honky. And it's like one of his later songs and he's doing more rock and roll. I just remember driving through San Diego playing that, having Jason Ray request that we play that song, and my friend Hugo was like, we probably shouldn't play this song in this neighborhood. Yeah. Come on, shuffle me into something.
Let's circle.
Give me something. Hit me.
You never talked about why you elected to not drink or to not do these things. Is it just a personal choice, or what was your choice to not get involved with that stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up with two sober parents. They both got sober well before I was born. So I don't have like trauma of having parents in recovery. But like I had a babysitter like a couple times. But my parents kind of took me everywhere, sort of deal. Like my dad would pick me up from school and I would go to a job site with them. Or my mom would pick me up from school and I would go to an AA meeting. And then I remember we would always go to this one on Sunday. So like every Sunday night, I would go to an AA meeting for I don't know how many years. So I grew up in AA meetings, and
what was that like?
It was awesome. It was great. What
did you learn from them?
Yeah, so what I learned was you probably
don't want to drink.
Or at least you probably shouldn't. What do you call it when you're leaning on something?
Crutch?
No. You probably shouldn't.
Rely?
Rely. But there's a specific word I'm thinking about. Anyways, yeah, you probably shouldn't rely, be dependent, have a crutch on alcohol or substance. So that was one thing I learned. Also, I feel like you learn there's no shortcuts. You learn, and not only...
What do you mean by shortcuts? There's no shortcuts.
Like, you just gotta work hard. Like, a lot of people there are just, like, hardworking people, or at least, like, the most successful people are, like... Because, like, to get sober, like, a lot of people, you can't just stop doing drugs. So you have to show up to the AA meetings.
Right, it takes work.
You have to do the work. And then a lot of the people there, just, like, by nature, the people that were there, like, a lot of the guys were construction workers. Just because, like, in high school you start drinking and you don't stop, and then you don't go to college, and then what do? Well, you do construction. So a lot of the guys there were just super jacked, covered in tattoos. So you learn hard work. You learn that you probably shouldn't, not only, I just said alcohol and substances earlier, but you probably shouldn't have, like, things that you get addicted to, like, at all.
In terms of vices?
Yes, thank you. That was the word I was looking for earlier, vice. Like, you shouldn't have a vice in anything. Yeah.
What do you
learn
think?
The values
what do you think the difference
and stuff like that, for sure. That's like paramount in AA. Like, I've watched people who were 6 years sober have to go up and take a sobriety chip for 1 day sober. I've watched people who have 20 years sober have to go up and take a 1 day sobriety chip. Yep. And it's not like you get rid of your 20-year one. Like, you still have that one at home.
Yeah.
So you have, like, your 20-year chip next to your 4 1-day chips. Probably a lot more than 4. Because of how many times you've tried to get sober. Persistence. You learn persistence for sure. Yeah. So yeah, it's not like I had traumatic experiences that scared me away from it. It was more just, it was almost like looking at the situation objectively and just being like, wow, like, this is what can happen, not what will happen, but it's not good. And also just like, when you aren't persuaded or pressured into doing it, like, you don't have, like, you can also just look at it not only from, like, an addiction standpoint of, like, oh, I don't want to be addicted, so I shouldn't do it, but also just, like, why would I do it in general? Like, I don't need it as a social crutch. I don't, like, it's gonna hurt how much you sleep. It's gonna hinder your performance if you like sports. Even if you don't like that stuff, you're not gonna feel good the day after if you drink a lot. So it was almost like getting a head start on kind of the perspective that you had, that you eventually came to.
Right.
It was like, I just saw that perspective when I was 11 instead of seeing it when I was 21 in COVID quarantine with my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there a specific time that you remember where you explicitly chose not to drink? And what I mean by that is, do you remember if there was a time where you were contemplating, maybe it was your first party where alcohol was involved, or...
No, because I feel like everybody... What? My high vis? Am I glaring? I'm not glaring that bad. You want me to go change? I was blazing hot. I'm so sweaty right now. I'm so sweaty. You could give me to an African village and they'd have water for who knows how long. It's incredible. We're drinking. Speaking of sweating, no, I don't. Cause I feel like if you knew me in high school and I was hanging out with you, even if you knew me in passing, you probably heard. I don't know. I never really got pressured into drinking. Like I would go to parties in high school, and people wouldn't be like, "Hey, here's this beer" or whatever. Like none of my friends or even strangers at the party would try and get me to drink. And I think it's because my friends knew my situation, and then strangers aren't just gonna be like peer pressuring you to drink. At least where I came from.
I guess that's different from when you're a boy versus a girl.
I'm so glary right now. Do I need to go change?
You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, it also could be the atmosphere I was in, just the culture. Drinking's not that big.
Yeah.
And also bullying wasn't big. Like we didn't have bullying, and it's not like I went to a small weird, private high school. Like I went to a huge high school with a lot of people, and a lot of social dynamics, and there wasn't bullying.
It wasn't necessarily bullying, but bullying, not bowling.
Bowling. Huh.
It wasn't necessarily. Oh my god.
You got it?
It wasn't necessarily any bullying that was taking place. It was just the desire to fit in and be cool because someone would be going to their brother or their sisters that were older, their siblings' weekend at college. And then they would come back and be like, "Oh, I drank this and did this and blah, 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 blah." And you're just thinking like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool. Your older brother's cool. Like, I want to be like you. I want to be like your older sister." And you're kind of just doing and drinking to fit in rather than being peer pressured. Although, in a way, it kind of is peer pressure.
It's like indirect.
Yeah.
Secondhand peer pressure.
It's not
That's what I call that, you know what I mean?
That's so true, babe.
I'm on this episode.
And it's not your standard, peer pressure of, you better drink this or else we're gonna not drive you home, or if you don't drink this, we're gonna stop being your friend. It was never that. It was never in a bullying capacity.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying that it was. I was just I feel like that's assumptions that people have about high school. And I feel like, at least for me, I know the bullying one, we didn't really have a bullying issue, but for me, the drinking and the peer pressuring one also wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
I remember fist fights in high school, we had 6, and it was a high school with 3,000 people, and I was there for 4 years.
That's crazy.
And half of them were the same people. I mean, we'd go to the park or whatever, and we'd put gloves on, and we'd fight in the park or at the beach or something like that. But that's not getting down in the locker room.
Yeah.
Or getting down in the cafeteria. And the funny thing is a lot of those fights were just the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember some Mexican kids stole a golf cart once. That was pretty good. The.
So you don't think that there was any specific time that you were explicitly telling somebody, "No, I'm not drinking"? It was kind of just a thing that your friends knew, and so you projected. It wasn't just Milo's never gonna drink.
I mean, people offered me, and I would say no. The only person, he's one of my best friends, he loves, and I think it's more of a bit. I don't even think it's him trying to get me to drink. I think everybody thinks it's funny. him being like, dude, have a beer. Have a beer. And it's like, no, I'm good, but thank you. I'm good, but thank you. So I don't know if that counts. I'm sure he's half serious, half joking.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Thanks, man. Maybe I'll get drunk when he gets his green card. Maybe that'll be my present to him.
Oh, wow. Break your 22 years of sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one Coors Banquet once, but that's like water. It's not.
Dirty bread water. Yeasty water.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yep.
So, how do you feel?
I feel hot, man. I was sweating in that sweater, and I didn't want to.
That's not what I meant.
I feel great. I feel like people should probably, I don't know.
Commend you for your 22 years.
No, I was gonna say people should probably. I think we need more people going to the gym. I feel like we need more people eating red meat and not frozen pizza. I feel like
we should say not necessarily red meat, but more along the lines of I feel like people should eat more whole and natural foods.
Yeah. So that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, eat some more meat.
Healthy habits.
Eat some more eggs, have some cheese. Not the cheese on your frozen pizza. That's how I feel.
So what do you think should be normalized instead of drinking? Coffee? Like, if you were going to a party, or if you were to go back to the ranch, what would you...
Try and steer people towards?
No, not necessarily that, but
what should I peer pressure people into doing?
No. What should you do, like, as an individual to make yourself feel less awkward? Because I remember for me, as soon as I quit drinking, and I would still go to the bars with my friends and whatnot, it was just awkward because I was like, what do I do with my hands? Like, everyone has a cup in their hand. And I was so confused and awkward. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. I knew so quick when you answered. Like, before you finished asking me the question, I knew. I want to hear, what are your guesses?
What are my guesses?
For what I'm going to say, I feel like I should be doing while they're drinking.
Nothing.
Just standing there observing?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I've said that too. But after I really thought about it, you get one more guess.
A glass of milk.
That's a good one. I like that, but not quite. Cooking. I think that'd be fun. Just grilling or making, whatever. I'm just cooking and there's people and they're drunk.
Yeah, but you can't just, cook anywhere.
What are you talking about?
If you're at a restaurant or a bar or a party at someone else's house.
Very much good. If I'm at a bar or something like that, thank God I have a truck with a camp stove and a smoker and a generator to run the smoker. I've done that before too. I've exited a situation and just started making food. If I'm at someone's house, hey.
Where's the food?
You
just had it in your car?
It's possible.
I'm asking.
I could go get it because I'm sober and I can drive.
When you left the quote-unquote situation, you just had food in your car ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Come prepared.
Isn't it hot in California? Wouldn't it have gotten...
Sometimes. We'll figure it out.
I feel like that's a made-up story. But anyways, continue.
Or you go to the grocery store. Done that before too. Left. Gone to the grocery store. Came back. Cooked.
At a bar?
Not at a bar. But you're telling me I'm at someone's house. They're drunk. I offer to cook them food while they're drunk. They love it. They love it.
It's weird.
No, not weird at all.
Okay.
Not weird at all. Hey, Hugo's drunk extended family. Do you guys want cheeseburgers?
If you're at...
See.
if you're at a friend's house, they're throwing a, say I invite you to my friend Samantha's house. You're gonna go up to her if she's throwing a party and hosting for 30 plus. No, you're not. That's so that.
Hey Samantha, you want a charcuterie board and 1,000,000 cheeseburgers? Drunk Americans and cheeseburgers? What are you talking about? They're gonna love it. They love it. I've done it before. But if I'm at a bar, yeah, that's a hard one. Because if I don't have my camping stove, yeah, I don't know. Bar. Hope to God it's got pool tables, and just hope I can just find someone drunk enough, and they'll bet me a transmission or money, and I can beat them in a game of pool. I was in the middle of Utah, actually, and I was at a bar with my friend I met on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I'm passing through your town. Let's hang out. So we go to the bar. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere in Utah. And they got pool tables and everything like that. We're playing pool, and this dude, he's so drunk. It's insane. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone drunker. He's like, oh, like, can I play with you? And we're like, yeah, sure. I was telling him that our balls are his balls, and he's trying to hit our balls in, and then I would line up, and he would set me up, and I would knock it right in the pocket.
Did that feel rewarding? You were beating someone that was pissed drunk at pool?
No, but it did not feel rewarding, but it felt very funny. You can't tell me that's not funny. It was so funny. And it's not like he's throwing 20s at me or something. He's giving me, like, he was buying the next table.
Okay.
Or something like that. Or he would buy my friend, like, a beer.
Okay.
You know, it's so... But, I mean, that could feel rewarding if someone maybe deserved it, you know? Or if you won a transmission from it.
Okay.
I beat someone in a game of pool, and he goes, I got a transmission, a motorcycle, a smoker, or $15. He said, give me the tranny. And so I backed my bed up to his bed, rolled the tranny into my bed, and strapped the tranny down. It was a good time.
Great story, babe.
People love that story.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Well, that's going to do it for me.
Is this the longest podcast you've ever done?
No. We could beat it, but we have to go to the gym and build healthy habits. Anyways, thanks so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. We're also on YouTube now, so go and check out on YouTube. Like and subscribe there. And thanks for watching.
We are on YouTube, and we are also on Instagram. The Instagram is Milo X